everybody. Welcome, friends. Welcome to my channel. My name is Reverend Donna Seraphina. I am a psychic medium and a spiritualist reverend. My assertion that my work was pivotal in locating the remains of Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow is provable. Something that was said in the first two trials, in the Idaho trials of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, has affected me personally, and I have no choice but to deal with it. So that's what I'm going to do. In these first two trials, there was a statement made by a detective Hermosillo where he claimed that no outside tips helped to find the remains of the location.
Did you ever alert the public that the children were missing?
We did. We held a press conference on November 20th, 2019, and alerted the public that we had two missing children in our area.
And after that press release came out, did you receive tips after that?
Yes, we did.
And did you follow up on those tips as well?
Yes, we did.
Did any of those tips ever lead you to finding J.J. Vallow?
No.
Did any of those tips lead you to finding Tylee Ryan?
No.
He also, 2 minutes later, testified that he did not even know they were going to search Chad Daybell's property until the week before.
Was it only the Rexburg police, or were there other agencies involved?
At that time, there was Fremont County and Rexburg City Police that went to his house at 7.
And did any other agencies help you that day on that search?
They did.
Who were they?
The FBI ERT team, which is the evidence recovery team, the Attorney General's office, Fremont County. I believe that's it.
Okay.
So as time passed, Mr. Daybell was reading the warrant on his recliner. While he was doing that, there were ERT members and other officers that started marking off different sections in the backyard that we wanted to search.
Now, Detective, just for clarity of the record and for the jury, I believe you defined ERT earlier, but can you tell the jury again what ERT is?
Evidence recovery team
And who are they associated with?
with the FBI.
Now, Detective, were you the lead of executing the search warrant that day?
I wasn't in charge of the search warrant.
So clearly he did not know everything about this investigation. What I find interesting is that he claims he had no idea, but yet his partner, who is Chad Daybell's brother-in-law, wrote me a letter back. So he's also saying then that him and his partner don't even talk about the investigation. Of course, his partner retired before the trial, and there was an entire reading devoted to the man on the Harley whose relative did this. Yeah, that was about that situation. Now, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to go over here first. I'm going to go over. If you listen to my description of where the remains of the children are, and then you consider that Detective Hermosillo was present during a January 3rd raid, a warrant served on Chad Daybell's house.
November 25th, 2019. The next morning, November 26th, 2019, myself and Detective Dave Hope went to 565 Pioneer, 175, which was Lori Vallow's residence. As we pulled up behind the residence, there's a garage area on the west side. Outside the garage area, we had located Alex Cox and Chad Daybell, who were unloading a pickup truck.
It does look like the Pacific Northwest with the big giant trees.
I don't really see specifically the house. I just feel like it's kind of one of these modest, like, summer homes or whatever. Summer cabin, summer home, whatever. They want me to see off into the distance. So, like, from where I'm on this property that feels like it would be like there would be like a summer house there, like a smaller house, or it could even be a decent house or something. But it's the type of area where people would have like second homes, like where they take their kids for the summer and stuff. It has that kind of feeling. I'm not saying that's what it is. It's just the feeling of the vibe of the place. It's very peaceful, very peaceful. I feel like there's a little, like a front porch area, but it's not a raised up porch. They're showing me, and I can't be 100% sure that it's attached to the house on the lake, but I feel like it is. And I feel like it's not a porch that's raised up, you know, like wooden, you know, porch, like on the Craftsman house or whatever. It's more like just flat. It could be brick or something. It's either brick or concrete. It might have like a foot high kind of brick border around the little area, and then it might be big enough outside the front door to have like a couple chairs where maybe a couple ladies might be sitting and talking or something. It could be a little bigger than that, but that's just a feeling I get. I'm seeing these things and I see bits and pieces. So then if you see it and it's like 10 feet big and you're like, oh no, she said a little porch. No, this is what I see. I see pieces of this front porch. I almost feel like the house may have been, well, it feels to me, well, it's definitely built between the 50s and the 70s. I feel like it's a 1-story, but it could be now a 2-story. Like maybe someone came along later and added one more, you know, a bedroom on half the house or whatever. So that's why if I said 1-story and then you see a 2-story and you're like, oh no, that's not it. Well, that's why. It might even still be painted 2 different colors. Like if the bottom story has one color of paint and then that addition has like still, they left it like wood brown where you stain the wood or whatever, something like that. Like I said, they use whatever images they can find in my consciousness, they pull up. So they're standing there scanning my consciousness and pulling up, oh, here's a summer house Donna saw before. Let's show her that one. And then they're like, oh, here's a little detached garage. Let's show Donna these decorations because she one time saw a detached garage like that. But one thing, like with that detached garage, it's definitely detached from the house. You identify that house. There could possibly be an attached garage to the house or attached those carport things. That's possibility. I don't see it, but I don't know. But maybe this thing that looks like a garage and it's about the size of a garage was built to be a workshop, right? For a hobbyist. Because it has a workbench on all 3 sides. And that they show me over and over. So that I know is not just a picture from my mind. That is an important element. So that's another thing about recognizing the level of how much the spirits are emphasizing something over and over and over and over. He's like literally there's a garage and off a building not connected to the little house, the little summer house. You know, it could be a permanent house, but that's the type and style and the feeling I have, that's all. Now, did he never hear this? For months and months and months, they're putting out press conferences that they have no idea where the children are. But he never took the time to listen, even though his partner did. And even though the FBI did, and even though other law enforcement clearly did. In fact, the combined totals on those readings are over 1 million. However, there are law enforcement officials that would rather have a crime be unsolved forever than to ever listen to a psychic. That's how bad they hate psychics. I'm not presuming what he thinks. Okay, I'm just going to address it. First of all, he testified that no outside tips helped. Even though right in his office was a purple binder with 1,100 pages of tips from psychics. He testified that no outside tips helped even though his partner wrote me a letter back thanking me for my hard work. He testified that no outside tips helped, even though Lauren called Detective Ronnie Ball and told him that I was saying they had missed a tool with DNA on it in the red shed, and that they did go back that same day that she called him and got the tool, which was then used in court for the DNA. Still, he took the stand and said no outside tips helped. And who put him up to it? The prosecutor, Rob Wood. And coincidentally, these two are friends outside of this trial. Interviews, they keep appearing together. They're buddies, okay? So I'm also going to show you from Kay Woodcock's daughter that as of March, Rob Wood was actually asking Larry Woodcock for every single thing I ever sent them, every piece of information, every video, every letter. So he knew about me too. So he had his friend up on the stand, and his friend says, oh, no outside tips help. This letter is from Kay Woodcock's daughter. We'd done several psychic readings together. It's April 21st, 6 weeks before the remains were found. This is what parts from Crusha. Ellie definitely got the stuff you sent to my dad because he got on the phone with the prosecutor Woods, and he told him how upset it made him, but he felt he wanted the prosecutor to be aware of the things you sent him. And on that note, I heard with my own 2 ears the prosecutor ask my dad to email your messages over to them. And my parents did email everything you sent to Larry over to law enforcement. This has to be compelling to law enforcement, I'd think. I want to help so bad, but without crossing lines with either of you. I am 100% behind you because you have made finding these babies your life. Exposing Chad, Lori, LDS community, it's been your work, sweat, blood, and tears. I've witnessed it for myself. And I just can't make them see what I see, and it's frustrating as hell. Probably why I've been so down and depressed. I need to know how to heal so I can bounce back quicker. Try not to take things so personal, but it's so hard to detach. So that's what Crusha wrote to me on April 21st, 2020. It really wouldn't matter to me if it wasn't affecting me personally and professionally. It is. I do some very important work, okay? In addition to locating missing children, which I have done countless readings, I've done readings on who tried to kill the president, on World War III, on where the Israeli hostages are, matters of national security, okay? It's important not to slander me or defame my character. There's a few things I want to go over real quick. First of all, Detective Hermosillo takes the stand and he says, no outside tips helped. 2 minutes later, he's saying he did not even know about the warrant that was going to be served and the search that was going to happen until the week before. The FBI told him the week before. I kind of wonder, I'm not sure how much information was shared between departments, but it could be because Detective Hermosillo's partner is Dave Hope, which is Chad Daybell's brother-in-law. So Detective Hermosillo's partner is Chad Daybell's brother-in-law. You don't think they drove by Chad Daybell's and talked about this? And Detective Hope is the one, I don't think this case would have happened if it weren't for Detective Hope, because he was the one who brought into play, hey, there's Chad Daybell. His wife died a couple months ago too. So then they start putting these pieces together. So Dave Hope is integral, but he retired before the trial, obviously probably because of the family relationship. So you have Rob Wood, who's the prosecutor and personal friend of Detective Hermosillo. But then there's this video clip where Rob Wood, it's very clear and provides proof that Rob Wood knew all about me by March of 2020, and he wanted everything I ever sent to the Woodcocks. You have a clip of my home description, and if you're trying to tell me that Detective Hermosillo and Dave Hope did not talk about this, that I was describing Chad Daybell's property, maybe Detective Hermosillo just meant that they had to find something else. Or maybe he just wasn't kept in the loop because his partner was Chad Daybell's relative. I don't know. All I know is he claimed that, and he claimed that incorrectly. So then we have Lauren from the YouTube channel Sweetie Pilo True Crime, who called Detective Ronnie Ball after the June 9th raid and was saying that I was saying that they left behind a tool that had DNA on it. And they went back that day and got that tool. You can listen to the clip from Agent Daniels at Chad's preliminary hearing talk about the fire pit. And we knew there was a fire pit, and we just wanted to get to the fire pit. And they didn't actually even know where the fire pit was prior to the warrant being served on June 9th, but they knew that there might be something in the fire pit, and it wasn't because somebody burned some branches, okay? It was because of my readings.
Mr. Daniels, does he have a title, Mr. Wood?
Special agent.
Thank you.
So on June 9th of 2020, early in the morning. So before we even set foot on the property, this is the fire pit area. So from satellite imagery, similar to what this image is, this wasn't satellite imagery, I don't think, but similar to this image, we could tell that there was a fire pit on the property. Based on my experience, we knew before we even set foot on the property that we could potentially find evidence in the fire pit. So prior to even arriving, I had already assigned 2 of my ERT members, once we arrived, to go to that fire pit and assess what we needed to do to process this fire pit. The fire pit area, we sent the 2 team members I had already assigned to that area because we knew that was a known. We knew we had to search the fire pit. We knew there was a fire pit. So once we arrived on scene, we could tell that there were circular bricks ringing a fire pit. So once we were on scene, we could tell what the fire pit consisted of. We were still trying to assess, and I haven't gotten to the pet cemetery, trying to find where the pet cemetery is.
Okay.
Mr. Pryor, you may inquire when you're ready.
Now, you also talked about a fire pit.
Yes, sir.
And in relation to what you described as a pet cemetery, where was the fire pit?
June 9th, 2020's fire pit was located in this area.
But then you go to February 23rd and February 27th prior to the trial of Lori or Chad, where they argued about the late evidence, which included my psychic essay and the purple binder with over 1,100 pages of tips from psychics or about psychics. And it was actually this late evidence that caused Lori and Chad's trials to be severed and to be tried separately and removed the death penalty from Lori Vallow.
And this court on the record at the last hearing said, I'm not going to allow the state not to turn this evidence over at the last hour and not give you an opportunity. Judge, that is well past. It's time. If you want me to talk about that, I've been trying to avoid the court's interim order, which talks about not talking specific about specific discovery, but if this court would want me to do that, I'd be glad to discuss that. Now, the next evidence, Judge, was provided. That was the 11th supplement. The supplement after that was provided me on the 6th. That was the 10th supplement. The supplement on the 9th supplement was provided February 5th. So now in the month of February, Judge, just in the month of February, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4 supplements. Those supplements include tips that were involved in this case from 2019. Tips that have been in the possession, and the state addressed that, and quite frankly, I responded to that in my reply, and I won't go into a great amount of detail, but the reality, Judge, is that if it's just something identifying tips, why are there 1,188 pages of tips? And I will let the court know that I have a much more urgent at this point. And if the state doesn't think that's important, and the state handed us, both of us, an envelope and said, oh, by the way, here's some tips, we didn't realize we didn't get you these. And here they are. Now, if they inadvertently missed something and they didn't provide it in a timely fashion, that's fine. But it doesn't excuse the fact that I don't have to be forced to rush through evidence and review these things at the last minute and try to be prepared for trial because the state can't get their act together. The rest of it I don't know yet because I haven't had a chance to go through it. And that's because they've been spending the last month of February disclosing all of this stuff that's been in their possession for a significant amount of time. 1,188 tips that were not provided and provided now in the less than the last month.
Further disclosures, because we discovered in an effort to try and be diligent and make sure that everything that we have is turned over and is uncorrupted, we discovered that there were some items that hadn't copied over or that the files had become corrupted. With regard to the tip information, we just want to clarify that this isn't 1,188 tips. This is 1,188 pages that contain information regarding the tips and a summary sheet.
Can you explain the delay in getting those turned over?
Yes. The state learned of their existence at the end of January. We were not aware that they were in the possession of law enforcement. The prosecution team learned of that at the end of January and provided it on February 2nd, as noted.
Of 2023?
I'm sorry?
February of this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we learned, the prosecution team learned that they were in, I think, the Rexburg Police Department's possession, and they were in reference to the search again for Tylee and JJ, who were missing at the time. Of the reports, including, I think, as mentioned in our brief, psychics and visions and things like that, the rest of that had not been turned over. This is true for the tips information as well. There may be some information that could aid the defendant in preparation for trial, but this does not transform the evidence from psychics or otherwise into material exculpatory evidence. And we were unaware that they had not been, that the full tip file, I guess, for lack of a better word, had been turned over previously. Once we learned of that, we did turn it over promptly, as mentioned.
What they did provide is an explanation saying, well, we just discovered that, oh, by the way, we didn't give you all the evidence in a capital murder case. We've just discovered that oops, sorry, but here it is now, and you're supposed to be ready. I'm sorry we didn't get it to you in time. I'm sorry that, oops, our mistake because our police aren't doing their job, and their incompetence has stopped us from getting evidence until 30 days before trial. I am asking the court to consider sever. I'm not going to go any further on the severance on this topic. I'll just touch on it briefly as part of that. Now, a combination of what I consider discovery violations and this late disclosure of discovery.
I understand the defense's frustration with getting those late, I do. But those tips relate to a time when kids were missing. They relate to a time before the bodies of the children were located. So anything that did have evidentiary value from those tips was absolutely followed up on, and there are reports regarding that have been provided, and there is the table at the beginning of those tips also.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. Mr. Pryor, would you like to offer any final rebuttal argument on that?
I would, Judge. Judge, I find it almost comical that the state in the last 15 minutes turned it all on the defense and said, it's all the defense's fault. It's the defense's fault that I'm not getting the discovery. That's absolutely comical. Now, Ms. Blake talked about the tips, Judge, and I don't think I misspoke, and I'll stand corrected if I did. I think I said 1,188 pages. And I said, on those 1,188 pages, there were 500 tips. And there are 500 tips. And like what the state has done all the time is they give you a snapshot of something and say, oh, by the way, this is what you got. This should be good enough. Don't do any further research into these tips, or don't read into these tips. You don't need to, because we've decided that this is what's important and this is what's relevant. And here we go. This is what you're waiting for. It isn't the state's job to rule what has evidentiary value, what's relevant, and what's exculpatory. How do I know what is exculpatory, Judge, if I don't have the evidence, if it's not provided to me? So they provided to me, and I'll cite exactly what they said. In the abundance of caution, we got you the rest of the evidence. In the abundance of caution, and we're making a good faith effort. Well, you know what, Judge, in the abundance of caution, maybe I can make a determination what I think they should have from me. And I'll make my own determination. But I'm not sure that's what's going to fly with the court. Again, it's not up to their determination. They're under an obligation to provide me the evidence. And the fact of the matter is that aside from disclosures and Brady, Mr. Daybell has a right to have whatever time is necessary to provide an adequate defense. And that includes the necessary time to go through all of the discovery.
All right, well, I will consider the motions under advisement, the motions to dismiss the indictment, motions to sever, motions to compel. They've all been argued somewhat concurrently today.
So it's really interesting that East Idaho News covered the other issues they argued about, totally ignored the issue about the psychic. And I believe that Nate even then did a whole article after the trial that no outside tips helped, because that's their official story, which I can deal with later if I need to or want to waste my time that way. Everything about where these kids were was found in my readings, everything. And I really strongly believe that those children would still not be found if it had not been for my readings. So are we to say that Detective Hermosillo never heard the reading, never heard the description, and that his own partner never even discussed this information with him? Is that what he's trying to say on the stand? The East Idaho News covered every other thing that they talked about, but ignored that. The same way Justin Lum, he spent almost a year touting this big Freedom of Information Act he was going to get from Arizona, and then he did story after story on these little minutia that was really unrelated, but yet never mentioned that my letter to the law enforcement had been shared 3 times among agencies in Arizona. Why didn't he share that information? When I know for a fact that both Justin and Nate Eaton were listening to my readings. I know that for a fact. So here's a clip of my description of the place where the children are buried, which is an actual, literal, perfect description of the Chad Daybell home. Considering that Detective Hermosillo's partner, Detective Dave Hope, was Chad Daybell's brother-in-law, are we going to assume that Detective Hope did not discuss my reading and the description of where the children were buried with his own partner, Detective Hermosillo? So you have Detective Hermosillo state that no tips help, but then you have him literally minutes later saying that he didn't know they were going to do this raid on Chad's property, this search of Chad's property. He had no idea. So he wasn't privy to everything in this investigation. Here's a clip of Lauren from Sweetie Pilo True Crime talking about her experience with calling Detective Ronnie Ball and telling him that I was really adamant that Charles was really pushing through to me that there was still a tool with the DNA on it, and they went and got that tool that same day, and it turned out to be very important in the trial of the tool with Tylee's DNA on it. In multiple readings, I kept talking about the edge of a lake where one tree sits out there by itself, and that, I mean, you have to go through there, and there is clue after clue after clue. And I'll do another video one day when I can handle the trauma of this whole thing, going over my readings compared to the information that came out. And I need to do that anyways, because people who are interested in hiring me need one thing that they could look at to know that I'm a legitimate psychic medium. Whereas I feel, and this has been shown to me a couple times, where I need to address this issue. And then you get to the trial, and you get to John Pryor, and he's doing cross-exams. So this is Chad Daybell's trial, and there's an FBI agent on the stand, and he asks some similar ways of questions, but he's specifically bringing up psychics. So I've been told they actually, in those hearings, if you ask one of the prosecutors, they weren't allowed to say my name in this or bring me up, right, in the trial. And this is all a result of this February 23rd hearing. So he says Allison Dubois, but he was talking about me, and we all know that. And FBI agent Doug Hart gave the proper answer, and that's the answer that Detective Hermosillo should have given, but they had a reason for doing what they were doing. And I'll leave it up to you to figure out what that reason is. But this is John Pryor, the defense lawyer for Chad Daybell. This is him asking FBI agent Doug Hart about psychic tips, and this is what he said.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that any and all evidence that you obtain, you should look at all leads of evidence and not target your investigation in one channel? Would that be fair?
Yes, that's what we did.
Okay. And that's what as far as the FBI, that's what you did, right?
I participated in dozens of meetings with the Rexburg Police Department and the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. It's my belief that's what all of us did.
Okay. So again, just to reiterate, it's your contention that you didn't fail to investigate or look into evidence that might lead you in a different direction. Would that be fair?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, as part of your FBI training, you talked about that you were involved in the task of looking for identifying missing children, correct?
Yes.
And as part of that FBI training, is it your experience or the FBI's experience that they ever utilized the use of a medium to try to locate or talk to children who have passed on?
It's extremely common for people who claim to have those abilities to come forward, but no, the FBI does not employ mediums in its investigations.
And I didn't say employ, I said utilize.
It's my belief that she holds herself out to be a spiritual medium.
And that spiritual medium is being able to talk to children who have passed on?
I couldn't say specifically what abilities she claims to have.
Okay, and I don't want to say employ, but has the FBI or any agency you've been involved in ever employed the other medium in helping gain information?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Overruled.
Gain information about the whereabouts or the circumstances surrounding the death of a children or anyone in particular.
Well, Mr. Pryor, when I said employ, I think I mean the same thing you do as utilize.
Okay.
Not pay money to. Many times these people come forward offering their services and offering what they claim to have seen.
So you are familiar that there are people out there who, as a professional occupation, claim to be able to engage in these spiritual exercises, for lack of a better word, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Sustained.
Okay.
And then there's emails. So if you want to look on VallowDaybell.com, there's going to be a whole lot more evidence put up there if you're interested in actually getting to the truth on this matter. I want to thank you. I hope I cleared that up for you. My name is Reverend Donna Seraphina, and yes, my work did contribute to the search for Tylee and JJ. I more than earned the very small $20,000 reward. Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow were brought to me, and their father, stepfather, Charles Vallow, and they spent 4 months constantly coming through and asking for my help, which I gave them. With that reward money, I was planning on putting a down payment on a van so I could travel to other places to look for other missing children. But because of what Detective Hermosillo said, Kay Woodcock believes that she doesn't owe that. And I can get into every issue of this case. Like I said, I've got hundreds of gigabytes of recordings and screenshots and every other thing to deal with it. So thank you for joining me today. My name is Reverend Donna Seraphina. If you like my work, if you're interested in mediumship and psychic abilities, if you're interested in crime or just even happy readings, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel. All right, thank you. And if you can share my videos, that would help a lot.
Check turned up empty for missing siblings Tylee Ryan, age 16, and Joshua J.J. Vallow, age 7. Their whereabouts were still unknown. At a time when the world was asking, where are the children? Are they still alive? On January 31st, 2020, there were still no leads. Both the family and the FBI were asking for help. On January 31st, 969 miles south of Rexburg, a psychic in San Diego, California, Reverend Donna Seraphina, is the only person who can answer that question.
It's interesting looking back now as we put this documentary together to see what was occurring prior to my involvement in the case of the missing Idaho children. So up until that point, in November, there had been a welfare check. So towards the end of November, they realized that the children were unaccounted for. When they went back and got a warrant to go search to look for clues, Chad and Lori had fled the state and nobody knew where they were. But it was clear that Lori was not cooperating. But at that point, I had never heard of these people and I had not seen these video clips. January 31st, 2020, I uploaded the first of 12 readings. 10 of these readings were uploaded prior to the discovery of the remains of Tylee and JJ. I accurately described in that reading on January 31st extreme details, graphic, extensive, very detailed descriptions of the murder of both children. At a time when people were mostly assuming that Lori had just hid them with their friends at a prepper camp or in some cult and that the kids were just in hiding. They didn't have any idea what state they were in. It wasn't publicly known when they were last seen. Nobody had these answers. And I uploaded the answers on January 31st and sent it off to law enforcement. And if you go back to that reading, Tylee Ryan, most important, uploaded January 31st. I talk all about the murder. And what I can say is, honestly, I am the only living witness to the murders of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, as well as Charles Vallow. I am the only living witness to these murders. I saw what happened.
She saw what happened. Reverend Donna Seraphina uploaded a series of 12 videos to YouTube between January 31st, 2020 and June 9th, 2020, when the bodies of the children were finally recovered by law enforcement. Reverend Donna Seraphina's witness account of these murders is very graphic and spares no details.
Okay, so the boy shows me he's playing with something. The mom comes over to him And then I'm feeling like the mom putting, going, it's okay, to the boy. It's okay. It's okay. Everything's all right. It's okay. Everything's all right. And then just, she has some like giant plastic bag and she just puts it over his head really fast and starts wrapping something around. I don't know if it's tape or what. And then the father sees that she's going gung-ho on that. And so he runs over to help her. Like they pin him down. And the father's trying to, or the man's trying to pinch his nose so he can't breathe. And so that's at the doorway of where there's a bedroom, the boy's bedroom, where the bottom bed's a little whiter and the comforters are navy blue. So she's leading him back into the bedroom when she kind of does that from behind. Okay, so I'm seeing Lori is the person who did it. She put the bag over the head. She also feels like she did the duct tape. Like she's just not, she just goes like full bore steam ahead. She's got, you would think she would have done the duct tape first, but I'm seeing her cases like she puts the duct tape, she puts that bag over his head and she's like twisting it around trying to like make sure he can't get air, and then I know some man is there, and okay, I'll just get, because I know there's someone man there that comes and helps her, but right now I haven't seen that yet, because what I'm getting, they want to show me that she was struggling because she was like holding this on his head and he's trying to push her hands away. So he's trying to push her arm, he's trying to push her chest, but he's not strong enough, and she's holding it down and she's trying to get this duct tape. She's trying to use her teeth to get duct tape with one hand while she's trying to hold his neck. She's trying to squish his neck, hold the bag on his neck, but he's trying to fight her. He's trying to I don't know if he can really scratch, but he's trying to get her away, push her away. He's struggling, so it's not being as easy as she wanted. That's when the guy, whoever's there, that's when the guy comes across and he holds the face. Now he's got his whole hand over the face and his hand over the neck while she's pulling out this duct tape now, and she's wrapping duct tape around where his neck is. And he's wearing pajamas when all this happens. He's not in bed, but he's wearing pajamas. I'm not positive, but I do definitely feel they are flannel pajamas.
Once you arrived in the autopsy room, what was the first thing you observed?
The first thing I observed was the black bag that was covered in duct tape that had been removed from the area underneath the tree by the pond, was placed on the table.
Okay, and you recognize that as the same black bag?
Yes.
How did you recognize that?
The duct tape and the black plastic that had still had dirt all over it.
Okay.
I observed a small child in red pajamas, red pajama shirt, red pajama pants. I also observed a light and blue blanket that had been placed on top of him.
Okay.
The amount of duct tape that was covering the body.
Okay. Where was that duct tape located?
On the head, arms, and feet.
Okay. Let's talk about the head area. When you looked at the head, what did you observe there?
The head had a white plastic bag over the top of it. It appeared to be a normal trash bag, had a red drawstring. It appeared to be the expandable type of trash bag with the waffle style pattern on top of the head.
Okay. And you had mentioned duct tape there. Where did you observe the duct tape?
There was duct tape that was tightly wrapped around this way, tightly from his chin to his forehead area. Several layers of duct tape tightly wrapped.
Okay. What did you observe the medical examiner and his team do with that material?
They ended up using a small sharp instrument and cut down the middle of it to expose what was underneath.
Okay, and when they exposed underneath, what did you observe?
An additional piece of duct tape that was stretched from jawline to jawline across the mouth.
Okay, and when you say across the mouth, at this point, were you looking at this child's face?
I was.
Okay. Okay, and can you, who was that little boy?
Joshua Vallow.
Okay. Were there any other items of, were there any other items of interest to you on that body?
Yes.
Can you just, what were they?
His hands were folded about chest high.
Detective, can you lift that a little bit higher so I can see?
Folded like this, chest high. He had duct tape continuously wrapped from elbow all the way around his arms, over his hands, all the way to his right elbow. Several layers of duct tape that were tightly wrapped. And the best way I can describe it is he had a ball of duct tape over where his hands would be.
Okay. Was that duct tape removed?
Yes, it was.
And what did you observe after that?
His wrists were also bound with another layer of duct tape.
Okay. After that, was there anything else that caught your attention about the way this child was found?
Yes, I noticed that his ankles were also bound with duct tape as well.
Okay.
The murder of Tylee Ryan was unspeakable horror for Donna to witness. Donna describes the spirit of Tylee Ryan to be the most driven to have her story told than any other spirit she has ever worked with.
A very, very strong team of two very strong personalities, two strong spirit people. Tylee Ryan wants every single person out there to know what her mother did to her. So when you hear these graphic, and I'm having full body chills right now, by the way. When you hear the graphic information on here, please know that Tylee Ryan wants you to know. She wants you to know what her mother did. Please take me along with you on the course of events that led up to and prior to the murder. I feel like I had to protect JJ from my mom because I feel like my mom is got this sinisterness, and I feel like I need to protect JJ. And I already know my uncle's weird. But my mom's, like, gone crazy, gone nuts, like, not even in this time zone, you know what I mean? She's real stressed out listening to them talk. It's like, they think it's great, all the bad stuff they do, and they talk about it, like, right in front of her and JJ. It's shocking to her. She feels shocked. Where Tylee was murdered. I feel like we go back out Yellowstone. I'm going to say this, back up the 20, back out of Yellowstone that way, the direction of Island Park. I feel like this happens almost instantly. And I mean, they just see their opportunity and take it. I feel like they walk her to say, oh, let's go look over here. Come over here. She doesn't want to go look over there. Alex and Lori taking Tylee, and they want to share something outside. And This is correct. I got chills on both legs. It's bad. They're still doing it. It went on. It took them a little while, I think, to kill her. Huge chills. Huge, huge. They're getting bigger. Oh my God. Massive pressure. Chills going up to my hips now. Tylee really suffered when they murdered her. This is important. It's important. And I got chills all the way up to my waist now. It's really important because when they go to court, this isn't about sensational. They made her, she suffered. She suffered. This wasn't a quick bullet to the head. This was them doing this, the quick, quiet, or whatever. Alex is straining on her. The mother's just smashing her in the head over, and this is going on and on. This is not a quick 1 minute death. It's like she's trying to gasp for air, and the like rooms, you know how the visions are going off, and like the equilibrium's going off. Like she's on the ground, pinned on the ground, being choked and having her head smashed at the same exact time, and it takes them several minutes though. Lori just keeps hitting her in the head. Lori, I think, even after she's unconscious, is smashing her in the head still. Lori's, it's overkill. It feels like overkill on the head there. Because Alex finally, gets up and is like, she's dead. She's dead, Mom. Leave it alone, or something like that. She's dead. Okay, so now Lori looks at Alex. Like, what are we going to do with the body? Like, she's not having any feelings whatsoever. It's not like, oh, I just killed my daughter. She's just like, evil's taken over her. Darkness. She's not, there's no feeling, remorse, gross, whatever. Nothing. Not nothing. It's beyond, it's a movement towards, now let's deal with the body. Not like, okay, let's take a minute or what to do. It's now let's deal with the body. There's not even a thought about the murder, that she just murdered her own daughter, even the slightest bit. I feel like they put Tylee up on this table, but it's almost like there's would you call it a giant cutting board? Would you have something with a giant cutting board that actually has drain thing on all sides of it? Part. So you can push not just blood to drain into this metal thing below, but pieces. So pieces of organs, legs, arms, hands, whatever. All the pieces, like, and what you would do with an animal. And so you can put them in there, and then afterwards you have like a hose kind of thing that you can pull out and you clean everything off. So this thing is actually made to be able to wash pretty much, not guts down it, but to wash stuff like that, to get all the extra yuck off everything and all the extra blood off the meat when you're doing all this, or something, or clean it or something, but. And so then you have all these pieces of her. She's in like lots of pieces. And then you could spray it off, and that's going to spray off lots of blood, right? So there's lots of pieces, like her head's off. I see lots of pieces. Let's just say I see pile of pieces.
The next clip was taken from the video Psychic Reverend Donna Seraphina uploaded to YouTube January 31st, 2020. 4 months before the remains of these children were discovered.
I'm waiting to see if I get a chill because I don't. Tylee, is anybody able to communicate with me on Tylee's behalf tonight? I feel like she's here. Okay, so I'm just seeing images. So instead of worrying about who's talking to me, I'm just going to see images. With mediumship, it's really interpretation, and that's where people can be wrong. So it's like I should say what I'm seeing, because if it means something different to the person listening to this, that's how that case will get solved, being said. And that's how mediumship works, and that's where the skeptics will come in and try to tear it apart. But the fact is, this is real, and this is how it works. But we're back at the house now. What I'm seeing is so gross, I don't necessarily even want to say it because it just cannot be true. And I'm going to delete this from whatever. If I put something up, I'm going to delete this. But it's just sickening. I see them starting a fire and roasting. It's like at this little summer home thing. And there's where you could conceivably like roast a pig there. It feels like they're roasting a leg, like the leg of the girl. I swear to God. It's hard for me to believe how this could be happening in my mind. So what I'm going to do is I can't believe anyone would do that. So since it's so unreal, it's burning the front of my forehead too. And so I'm just going to say a prayer of, I would like God, energy, love energy, pure light, so that only which is truthful, which is real, which is for the highest good, and all those entities that work in love and light to assist in facilitating communication with this young girl here. It's unspeakable horror. I feel like he chopped her leg off. I feel like with the girl, he's chopping her body up. Like a butcher would. Jeez, like with a meat cleaver. First he was using something else. For whatever I was talking about a minute ago, I saw a different kind of... I don't know what he was taking her her thigh off with, but it was bigger than the meat cleaver. But then on her knee bone, he was using a meat cleaver. He's like literally in... There's a garage and off a building not connected to the little house, the little summer house. You know, it could be a permanent house, but that's the type and style and the feeling I have, that's all. And it feels like he had the daughter's body on that workbench and he's literally chopping it up. He's got plastic everywhere, but it seems to me there would be like so much blood evidence there. You know, like all over the floor or in the cracks at the end. That because he didn't do that great of a job of putting up all the plastic. The plastic I'm seeing now with her is clear plastic. Why would he have two different plastics? Who the heck knows? So with her, he's trying to do something different. These people are sick. I feel like it's just like, for now I'm going to put these pieces of body parts in the deep freezer. And like he puts them in there. I don't know if he's in the garage anymore though. He could be in that house in like a pantry or like this hallway that leads to the kitchen, goes to outside. There might be one of these deep freezers. Oh, and then the two pieces of one leg. They're literally showing me of them putting this leg on this thing, like a rotisserie type thing, an outdoor thing that you would cook over an open fire like you might roast a pig on, I swear to God, and eating it. And they don't even care. It's like they're insane or something. Like, and it makes me wonder, like, why am I seeing this? Like, would my worst imagination make this up? Like, feel free to discount it, and it could make my entire thing seem like nonsense. But you know what? I have to say it. They showed me again. Okay, so I'll keep going. Yep, they're confirming this girl's body cut up. I'm just going to go blank a minute so they can start showing me whatever they want to show me. Seeing the girl again, so this is going to be about the girl. Feels like they just didn't want kids to like hamper up her life or whatever. Obviously, it feels like the mother of her is a sociopath. Like, she just doesn't really have feelings. If anything, she's slightly amused by somebody else's weakness. It feels like he used a hacksaw part of the time and dismembered his daughter. Okay, and this is his stepdaughter. I don't know who this relationship with, whatever. It would have been the stepfather or something. I don't know. But anyways, it feels like, yeah, I see him using a hacksaw. I'm not kidding. And also a meat cleaver. He may have tried an axe. Like, it sounds like he was trying a few things. I mean, used a few different things in chopping this body up. Okay, so now they're showing me. Okay, so they showed where they put those parts. Now they're showing me the abdominal part of a body with all the organs coming out. The mother. I feel like she likes killing. And I feel like if they roasted her leg, which is so crazy, I know, I don't even barely believe it, but this is what I'm seeing. I feel like them making sandwiches out of the meat. And if you go there, and if all this is real and exists, you find the body, look in the freezer. Open any packages of meat. They might be in butcher paper. They might be in foil with tape. They could be in baggie. But just look for frozen meat. It's so gross to think. It would be cooked probably. Maybe, I don't know. This is so gross. Some little piece of jewelry she was wearing may have, or a little sweater pin, or some little piece of something. It looks gold. So I'm going to ask them to clear that and take me back to when Tylee got murdered. He tried to use a hacksaw. So gross. He used the little axe things for that. So there's even something that almost looks like a medieval chopper. not that big, but more the size of a hand axe. But say if it was like really weird, but this seems to be upsetting Alex at the moment a little worse than Lori. This part about the dismembering, he's doing it, but he feels a little queasy, and she's like harping for him to get quicker. Like, I don't know if she's the one who did the axe on the knees. Like, get with it. Like, it means nothing to her. And, it's not that it means anything to Alex either, the death, but he's grossed out. I don't know if she wants him to disembowel Tylee. Yeah, so like if you took out the organs, kind of, all you got to do is jump in there and the animals would eat them right away. Get rid of the body quicker. Yeah. And so then you have all these pieces of her. She's in like lots of pieces. There's lots of pieces, like her head's off. I see lots of pieces. Let's just say I see pile. I see pile of pieces. Lori doesn't even care, and she actually bitches at Alex the whole time. He helped her. He had no problem helping her murder Tylee. Where he's kind of grossed out is all this blood and gut stuff. Like, gross, literally. Picking up innards, insides of this person. He's grossed out. I don't get him a feeling like, oh, poor Tylee, oh, my niece. I don't get that feeling, but I get the feeling of him being grossed out and Lori bitching at him. Like, she does not like it. When there's weakness in other people, it feels like she just goes in for the kill. As far as, okay, he's acting weak, so that makes her pissed. And she's taking energy, and she's being really mean, ordering him around and stuff. Okay, so they take her body out, and I feel like loaded the hefty bags full of body parts directly into there, and then carried it out and put it on the back of the truck, like kind of quietly. And then they might have saved that piece, so in case anyone was watching, it would seem normal, like they would be having this, cooking this big piece of meat or whatever that essentially was part of her leg. It feels like the girl is crying. I can't believe my mom would do that to me. She said I was her best friend. I hope she's alive and I'm all wrong and all that kind of stuff. That would be way better.
Already dug down and located what would appear to be a mass of burnt flesh and charred bone.
Okay. Do you recall approximately how deep down that was?
I don't recall how deep it was.
Okay. Did you observe ERT take that mass out of the ground?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
ERT had gone back to the same spot where there was the mass of burnt flesh and bone, and began excavating around that the best they could.
Okay. And what happened?
They were ultimately able to dig completely around the entire mass to reveal what they were digging up.
Okay. Were there any other identifying features of that in that area or as part of that mass that drew your attention?
Yes, there was.
What was it?
There was a melted green bucket that it appeared that the burnt flesh had been placed in. Under the bucket was a partial human skull.
And as that backhoe was expanding from our original 10 foot by 10 foot area, the backhoe uncovers 2 potential vertebrae. As I'm standing there waiting for the assessment to be made from the anthropologist, I caught an odor that I can associate with my experience with possibly being decomposing, human remains.
Okay.
We eventually, the next significant thing is we hit a bone, sticking out of the ground, and it kind of leads into some flesh. And then eventually we're able to excavate a few pieces. The major piece ends up being a pelvic piece. We knew at that point we had found human remains. That became then burial site number 2.
Okay.
And then the pieces that were recovered, and those pieces appeared to be burned. Some of them were pink still, so there was a lot of tissue still involved. And then again, it was pieces, so dismembered. And then those pieces were put in a body bag. The coroner was there, sealed up by the coroner. And then, so burial site number 2, it was a little bit more complex for us, I think, but it was the same process. There's a story to be told here at this grave. So we want to do the same thing, layer by layer, noting any significance. The difficulty, I think, for us, for this one, was the way these human remains were found. So it was kind of this, for lack of a better term, it was kind of a mass of dismembered human remains. Burnt, partially burnt. And so we did the best we could. It was kind of hard to recognize, like, what are we looking at here initially? What is this?
Mm-hmm.
We know there's tissue here, there's organic matter here, and we just couldn't recognize what we were dealing with. But layer by layer, we ended up just excavating all around this mass of human remains. And we ended up excavating all the way around it. And at the very bottom of this mass, we find, this melted green bucket. And then to the bottom, the side of that green bucket, we eventually find a skull. And then to the side of that skull, we find a mandible with some teeth. Those are the significant things that you could finally see and recognize out of this mass.
Okay.
And so we did the team did the best they could to kind of excavate around this. It came to the decision point of, okay, now we need to try to lift these remains out of burial site 2.
What happened when you tried to do that?
So when the team tried to lift the remains, this mass out of burial site 2, it fell apart. So what ends up happening is just a removal of pieces into the coroner's body bag. And then once we get the pieces into the body bag, our anthropologist and the coroner essentially do, as best they can, an inventory of what pieces we have, so that I know, as the team leader, how much more do we need to look for in this grave.
In this next clip, you will hear psychic Reverend Donna Seraphina describe Chad Daybell's home in detail. January 31st, 2020. Rexburg police investigators receive an audio copy as well as written transcripts of details you will hear pertaining to the location of the deceased children.
I feel like there's a little, it's not, like a front porch area, but it's not a raised up porch. They're showing me, and I can't be 100% sure that it's attached to the house on the lake, but I feel like it is. And I feel like it's not a porch that's raised up, like wooden, porch, like on the Craftsman house or whatever. It's more like just flat. It could be brick or something. It's either brick or concrete. It might have like a foot high kind of brick border around the little area, and then it might be big enough outside the front door to have like a couple chairs where maybe a couple ladies might be sitting and talking or something. This is what I see. I see pieces of this front porch. The house may have been, well, it feels to me, well, it's definitely built between the 50s and the 70s. I feel like it's a one-story, but it could be now a two-story. Like maybe someone came along later and added one more, a bedroom on half the house or whatever. So that's why if I said one story and then you see a two-story and you're like, oh no, that's not it. Well, that's why. It might even still be painted two different colors. Like if the bottom story has one color of paint and then that addition has like still, they left it like wood brown where you stain the wood or whatever, something like that. And then they're like, oh, here's a little detached garage. Let's show Donna these decorations because she one time saw a detached garage like that. Detached garage, it's definitely detached from the house. So even if you saw a little house like that and you know it's the house and one of these characters somehow related, you identify that house. There could possibly be an attached garage to the house or attached those carport things. That's possibility. I don't see it, but I don't know. But maybe this thing that looks like a garage and it's about the size of a garage was built to be a workshop for a hobbyist because it has a workbench on all three sides. If there's a fire pit and the fire pit has concrete, like it has concrete around it, it's not like just a flat on the ground build your fire. There's a little, it's a round ring. Okay, so we're the group of men. I'm with this group of men, and we're walking up to look for the body. The one in black plastic with the robes, which I believe is the boy, is not that far in. Maybe 50 feet, maybe. I mean, when I see it visually, I would guess that's only like 20, 30 feet, but it's kind of up a slope or something. And then as the slope kind of doesn't totally flatten out, but kind of has a gradual little bit of flatness, it's right about there, in between where it starts going up a little bit more again. That's just to the left when you're walking inland, just to the left of the path, or the way you're going there, the path. It feels like there's a little bit of a path there. Maybe it's not a man-made path. I don't know, but it feels like it won't be that hard to walk through there. Okay, so then it starts going up again. I'm feeling like this is where they might have went back when they got the girl's cut up body. Like, I don't feel like they cut up the boy's body. A little past where they buried the boys, you go up another slope. And this time it feels like he kind of veered off into the left. And then there's, I feel like there's some ferns back in there where they buried the body parts of the little girl. And I don't know if they brought all the body parts or if they're going to put them other places. Because I'm only seeing the one package that had like her two arms, which were each cut, the elbow and the shoulder. Oh, and then the two pieces of one leg.
What's closer to that fire pit, right near that red barn there. Again, from the affidavit, a second site of interest was located behind a red unattached outbuilding located roughly in the center of the property near a fire pit, an area used as a pet cemetery.
I'm seeing a little headstone cross, like you would see at a graveyard. And Lori says something like, I'll just remember my little JJ there. Close enough, like that or something like. But it feels like when you leave the area where you buried JJ, it feels like off to the right is a very small old graveyard, which probably, I don't know if there would be room in it anymore. Just some remnant of the past. But she's like happy. She's like celebrating. She's free now. She's free.
Several areas of disturbed ground were located. A buried cat and dog remains were found. And several other items of interest were found, including other bones, charred tissue, and charred bones, human remains, non-adult human remains.
Right away I saw a star. But where I'm directed is if you look straight across from there, down to where there might be an opening that either feeds the river or where the river goes away. I kind of get the feeling it's where it feeds the river there. Like a bottleneck or something, like if the lake is round and then looks like a bottleneck if you drew the thing, but I feel like it's leading into the lake, like a water stream, like from the mountains when the snow melts and stuff. But I don't know for sure. But I do feel like that. And they're directing my attention to there for reasons unknown to me. You find a body there. Because I was seeing I was seeing the big trees right next to the river, and then I was seeing the big trees with sand. And so if you kind of went behind this big boulder, okay, what I'm seeing is a man and a woman, and they're carrying one person, wrapped in a black, it's black plastic. So, and then it feels like the man is digging pretty hard there. And then covering that it feels like it's the boy that was buried there.
Investigators exposed a round object covered in black plastic. An FBI ERT member used a sharp instrument and made a small incision in the plastic. And a layer of white plastic was then observed. An incision was made in the white layer of plastic, exposing what would appear to be human remains, the crown of the head covered in light brown hair. The remaining dirt around the object was methodically removed, exposing what appeared to be a body wrapped in black plastic. The black plastic appeared to be tightly wrapped around the body and secured with gray duct tape.
For burial site 1, we started by removing this upper vegetation off to get a better picture without the vegetation of what it looked like. You could kind of see that raised berm, and then eventually you could see what looks like stones protruding through the ground. So once we've removed the vegetation layer, and as we're starting to go down through the layers of this grave, it's important to start noting these layers for this reason. So now we're starting to see the placement of stones on this grave. So someone's placed stones over this. And so now we're seeing how precise or how these stones are laid. And then you're also seeing roots from the surrounding tree that are cut, showing the effort or showing how this was done. Yes, and then so once the pictures, the photographs, and the scans are done of this layer, then we would remove those and then continue down.
Okay, and what did you find further down?
And then once these stones are removed, we then come across some thin boards that are underneath this level. So again, part of that process is once we remove those stones, kind of the next significant item is the boards that were underneath the stone. So again, someone's placed these boards over this grave site, and so this is telling that story, the effort somebody went through for some reason to put these boards there.
Picture. Who owns this cabin? What is the name of the person? Are they a friend or a family member? It's definitely a cabin that multiple people who are part of this group, they have had gatherings there. I'm feeling that members of that group, though, have been there. I feel like Lori's been there. Definitely feel like Chad has been there. I feel like these people are associated, more closer friends with Chad. I got chills about that. They're more associated with Chad than they are with Lori. And I would like to say that Chad helped Lori to refer her to where set this up. And I'm getting chills with that. And I would like to say and see if Chad was aware that Lori was planning on murdering her children. And I'm getting very big chills with that. So did Chad help with the planning of it by arranging a location where he felt that she would never be seen? And that big chills all alone. My whole legs are chills. So this is people of Chad, and Chad arranged the location because he knew they could get away with it there.
Justice will be served. This is not the end.
Three years ago, when I started on YouTube, the reason I started was because I had just witnessed, and it's going to sound crazy, but bear with me. I just witnessed a psychic that, I never believed in psychics at all, but I had witnessed a psychic solve an entire case that had been, a headline, high-profile murder case. Many people were interested in it. Lots of people were tuning in to find out, details and stuff. And these two missing kids whose mom basically carried out their murder along with their uncle and new stepdad. Shortly before these kids were found dead in the yard, I had happened to click on this crazy, it was a reading, a psychic reading. I thought, oh, this stuff is so hokey. This stuff is so stupid. Click on it. I am listening and I'm going, okay, not only is this hokey, but this is also gruesome and graphic. And so I clicked out of it. Then the children were found in the yard of their new stepdad's house. And I remember watching on the TV, seeing little bits that it sounded like the method in which they were killed was very egregious. So throughout that day or the following day, we found out more updates. And as I continued to listen to these updates, I thought, man, that sounds so familiar, but I don't know why it sounds so familiar. And then I remembered, oh, crazy. I remember that lady's reading I clicked on, and she talked about this and she talked about that. Oh my gosh, I got to go back to that. So I go back to the reading, and it picks up to where at the exact point that I clicked out of it. So pick back up, and my jaw is just on the floor. I couldn't believe it. How could this person, this lady, this psychic lady, get all these details right? Right? I mean, it just seemed crazy. So I made my first video about that. And that was in June, the end of June of 2020. So in the time span I've been on YouTube, which is now 3 years or nearly 3 years, we had been waiting for this trial, this case of Lori Vallow, the one who participated in the murders of her children. We've been waiting for that to go to trial for so long, and finally it happened. And what's come out is even more shocking and more glaringly obvious, that this psychic, who I at first wanted to naysay, she was even more right than I ever even thought. Pretty much for the last week or 2 weeks, I've just been poring over the details from this trial and finding the connections where I could, where it was obvious, where it was in my face. And I did this, and I stitched all those together, all those clips, so that I could show you guys. Let's see, what else did she get right that I couldn't say was right before? When she did this reading, it was 5 months before the children were found by the FBI. And she was just receiving information about what happened to these kids. And she released it at a time when nobody would have believed her. And then this right here is me, June of 2020, like the end of June of 2020.
Okay, what I'm seeing is a man and a woman, and they're carrying one person. They're carrying one person. Wrapped in a black, it's black plastic, and it has ropes tied, like there's rope tied around the neck, rope tied around the, where the arms would be, like they tied a rope about every 1.5 feet, rope around the ankles, rope around, but they're tying it. Seems like I don't know, that's just their burial way, what they're doing. And so, and then it feels like the man is digging pretty hard there.
Let me stop real quick. So that is that's probably in the first 8 minutes of her first reading she did on this case, on the Lori Vallow case, when she was tapping in, where are JJ and Tylee? Like, what happened to them? Right there, she's explaining that she sees a boy wrapped in black plastic. She felt that it was his mom and a man who had done this, and that they were burying him at this point. That was January 31st, 2020. The children were not found until June 9th of 2020, so about 5 months later.
And then covering that, it feels like it's the boy that was buried there. You find a body there. I'm seeing a boulder right around there, and then if you went just past the boulder, and then you go in, and I feel like there's woods there that are relatively close to the water. What did you observe in the photo?
Okay. What came out is JJ's grave area, what they turned into JJ's grave, was, it had rocks. It had rocks and it had wood. And we'll get a little bit more into that here, but she noticed, or she took note right there, that there was a boulder. Boulders are rocks. And now you'll hear the court testimony.
181. So once the stones and rocks were removed from that last layer, this was the next layer. So underneath those stones, rock, there's 2 planks that were observed. And so that was a good point to stop, take more photos, and do some scans.
How to make the reason I say that is they did, once they put the dirt back over, they're putting these bushes back on there to regrow. So that it'll grow over, like it won't, no one will be able to tell anything was buried there. Chad shows me how to make the mound so that, because he knows how much will sink in. So he knows you put it up, you know, in a mound and then put it, and then within a, you know, short amount of time, it'll be flat. And they flattened it. They once they put the bushes in, they like flattened it. They actually did quite a bit of work to make it cover up.
Agent, from your experience, you talked about the deliberateness of those items placed there. Was there anything else significant or that stuck out to you about those items being placed there? So by placing these planks and rocks, a couple of things stuck out to me, and that would be you would do that in order to prevent wildlife potentially from getting to your human remains. Also, I already described how this grave was found. There was like a raised berm. When human remains decompose, that usually means that if it had been level, there would be like a sinking of the soil once the human remains decompose. So somebody's put some thought into, if the human remains decompose and there is like a sinking of that top layer, if there's a berm to it, then that will kind of level out over time.
To me, that was a huge detail. And I didn't realize that before. Like I said, so much of this has sort of reemerged as important just from going through the trial itself. This was shocking. Wait till you hear the rest.
Seen him laying in the boot. That's why you can't assume that he wasn't wrapped in plastic. He may or may not have been, but right now I'm seeing JJ's face. I'm seeing him laying in this grave, and I'm seeing that it's like no more. It might only be like a foot deep. Yeah, I got a little chills of a foot and a half. Yeah, 2 feet. Somewhere between 1 and 2 feet deep. It's not a like 4 foot deep grave.
Finally, in layer E. So this is when that excavation was complete. We were ready to remove the remains, and then the lowest layered scan depth that picture was taken was just above 2 feet.
Lori is the person who did it. She put the bag over the head. She also feels like she did the duct tape. Like she's just not. She just goes like full bore steam ahead. She's got cases like she puts the duct tape. She puts that bag over his head, and she's like twisting it around, trying to like make sure he can't get air. And then I know some man is there, and I wonder if it's Chad. I'm not sure. No, I'm not getting any energy about that. Okay, so okay, I'll just get, because I know there's someone down there that comes and helps her, but right now I haven't seen that yet. Because what I'm getting, they want to show me that she was struggling because she was like holding this on his head, and he's trying to push her hands away. So he's trying to push her arm, he's trying to push her chest, but he's not strong enough. And she's holding it down, and she's trying to get this duct tape. She's trying to use her teeth to get duct tape with one hand while she's trying to hold his neck. She's trying to squish his neck, hold the bag on his neck, but he's trying to fight her. He's trying to like, I don't know if he can really scratch, but he's trying to like get her away, push her away. He's struggling, so it's not being as easy as she wanted. That's when the guy, whoever's there, that's when the guy comes across, and he holds the face. Now he's got his whole hand over the face and his hand over the neck, while she's pulling out this duct tape now, and she's wrapping duct tape around where his neck is. And he's like, shaking his body, and urinates on himself. And he's wearing pajamas when all this happened.
Literally over 3 years before it comes out in court testimony, Donna is saying, and this particular clip was taken from her cop questions video, which was April 24th of 2020. So it's about 1.5, 2 months before the kids were found. She says, oh, and she even saw this in her first video back in January, but she says that Lori comes up behind JJ, puts a white bag over his head, and begins basically rapping. She's trying to rap, but he's fighting against her. He's pushing against her. And that's when she's just, pushing her fingers and stuff into his neck to grip him, to try to hold this and secure this in place. And then that's when a guy comes from across the room to serve as like reinforcement or backup. At that point in the reading, she wasn't sure, was this Chad? Was this Alex? There's been times where she said she felt like Chad was there. And so anyway, this person helps her. And then she proceeds to wrap this duct tape from the neck up. And that's the clip that I just played. Now I want you to hear what the expert said.
Formed an expert opinion concerning the cause of death of J.J. Vallow. I have. What was that? I determined the cause of death to be asphyxia by a plastic bag over the head and duct tape covering the mouth. And then there's another segment that's other significant conditions. I put bound with duct tape, bruising of the arms, and abrasions of the neck. But ultimately, the cause of death was asphyxia by plastic bag over the head and duct tape over the mouth preservation. So we broke the seal on the bag and opened that bag up, and then the body was further enclosed within a black plastic tarp that was held together with multiple strips of duct tape. And then we opened that up, and that was the first time that you could actually see the body. Right from the beginning, there were some things that obviously jumped out. One, there was a white plastic bag over JJ's head, and it was wrapped around the face multiple times with duct tape all the way down to the neck. In addition, the forearms and the hands were bound with duct tape, and the ankles were bound with duct tape. JJ was wearing red pajama tops, red pajama bottoms, and black socks.
That detail. If you have to rewind this just a hair, go back to the last clip of Donna. She said he was in his pajamas. Very first reading she did, she said that he was supposed to be in bed, that he was playing by his toy box, and that's when Lori, basically she just decided out of nowhere to end his life. And remember in this clip you just heard of the expert, he talked about JJ being in his diaper, his night diaper. Well, Donna, that was what she picked up on too, because he was supposed to be in bed. So, but here we go. Here's the expert again.
I'm seeing a leg.
Or sorry, Donna again. A human leg.
What I'm seeing is so gross I don't necessarily want to say it because it just cannot be true. And I'm going to delete this from whatever. If I put something up, I'm going to delete this. But it's just sickening. I see them starting a fire and roasting. It's like at this little summer home thing, and there's where you could conceivably like roast a pig there. It feels like they're roasting a leg, like the leg of the girl. I swear to God. I can't. It's hard for me to believe how this could be happening in my mind. I feel like he chopped her leg off. I feel like with the girl, he's chopping her body up like a butcher would. Jeez, like with a meat cleaver. First he was using something else for whatever I was talking about a minute ago. I saw a different kind of, I don't know what he was taking her her thigh off with, but it was bigger than the meat cleaver. But then on her knee bone, he was using a meat cleaver.
On that crime scene, the fire pit. This is how it was found by law enforcement that day. In her testimony, how they removed the debris They raked it. They sifted that ground, and they found pieces of Tylee Ryan in that fire pit.
You know, garage building. The inside, it's not really meant to park cars, at least the way it's set up, because it has a workbench around 3 sides of it. And it feels like he had the daughter's body on that workbench, and he's literally chopping it up. He's got plastic everywhere, but it seems to me there would be like so much blood evidence there. You know, like all over the floor or in the cracks at the end. Because he didn't do that great of a job of putting up all the plastic. The plastic I'm seeing now with her is clear plastic. Why would he have 2 different plastics? Who the heck knows?
Just so you're tracking, because I know that, you know, the way I stitch these clips together, it's Donna, and then whether it's an expert or the DA or something like that, it goes back and forth. So I want to make sure you're tracking this. So she talked about seeing Tylee's, she called her the girl, which is Tylee. She saw Tylee's leg, wrote that the people were roasting her leg in, it seemed like a fire pit, like a spit, where you would conceivably roast a pig. Instead, they were roasting the leg of the girl. Then what you heard was Rob Wood talk about how Tylee's pieces of her body were found still in that fire pit. And that was almost 9 months later, I think. Then we get into the outbuilding or garage. The garage is where Donna initially sees that this is where everything happened. This is where he dismembered Tylee. This is where he literally, I'm sorry to be so graphic, where he took apart every part of her and then got that ready for the fire pit. So listen to these key details. They are very important.
That's not the only place they found Tylee Ryan that day, though. They also found pieces of her here in the shed. You heard how law enforcement searched the shed for tools that could be used in the commission of these crimes. These shovels, this pickaxe, were of particular interest to them. You heard testimony of this pickaxe, how it was taken to the Idaho State Lab. How in the eye of that pickaxe, there was material that looked different than the dirt, so it was separated out. It was tested for DNA. It was tested against the profile of Tylee. And it was Tylee in the eye of the pickaxe.
Body parts of the little girl, and I don't know if they brought all the body parts or if they're going to put them other places. So I've only seen the one package that had like her 2 arms, which were each cut, the elbow and the shoulder. And then the 2 pieces of one leg. They're literally showing me of them putting this leg on this thing, like a rotisserie type thing, an outdoor thing that you would cook over an open fire like you might roast a pig on, I swear to God, and eating it.
And
And they don't even care. It's like they're insane or something.
Yeah.
Like,
you mentioned some thermal evidence of thermal.
Now listen to this. This is Angie Christensen, and she talks about carnivore activity on these bones. Now I want you to keep in mind, these are among the bones that were buried. They were actually buried beneath the dirt in the pet cemetery. There was a quick forming cement that was applied to this group of bones, it's believed. So it couldn't necessarily have been carnivore activity from an animal. It had to have been before cement was applied. More than likely, that carnivore activity was Chad, Alex, Lori, one of them, all of them. She saw that it was, I believe, all of them, if I'm not mistaken. Here we go. Here's Angie Christensen. Important.
Damage. Did you see any evidence in any of the bones that you had of carnivore activity? Yes, there was one bone that had marks on it that are consistent with what you see when carnivores scavenge or chew on bones. And when you say carnivores, we're talking a dog, a cat, a meat-eating animal. Yes.
Which includes humans.
Let me show you what has been marked as 181A. That is a photograph depicting portions of the left and right femur or thigh bones.
Remember, she said a leg. They were roasting a human leg. Crazy.
And when you say the left and right femur, why did you take these particular pictures? I take pictures that document everything in my examination. And you earlier referenced that you'd seen some activity of carnivore activity? Yes.
It's like you went right in the middle there and buried the one leg and if you find one leg and two arms, I'm telling you right now, they did eat that other leg. I'm not kidding.
Very clear.
What we're seeing in photograph 79, this is the garage door opening or shed barn opening, and it's located right here on this.
Okay. Now I think this is Steve Daniels. He starts talking about the tools that are on the wall in Chad Daybell's garage or outbuilding or shed. You'll hear it called several different names. Donna refers to it as an outbuilding or a garage. But you're going to see the correlation here in just a minute, that this tool Donna saw Chad held on to is the one, I think, that tested positive for DNA of Tylee's and tissue of hers.
Side. So if you're walking from the residence over here, this is the first entryway you could go into to get into this area. Okay. And so here's the entryway. And as you walked in, what did you see? So one of the things, knowing that we're dealing with a burial, two burials, one of the things we're interested in is any tools. So if I was burying somebody, what tools would I need to do this? Or in the case of Tylee, if I burn Tylee, if I dismember Tylee, what would I need to do that? So as I'm doing a survey of this garage, those are the tools that I'm looking for. So one of the things as we walked into this garage, from that open garage you saw in the first photo, there's a bunch of tools up against the wall right here. And this is kind of an as-is photograph. So right now you're seeing the tools as they were on June 9th. And what's significant about this photograph? So this becomes more important. These are the tools that we chose to take as evidence. And obviously, because they could be the tools that I would use to bury somebody or do something harmful to somebody before this given scene. So we've got the pick, we've got shovels. And again, a lot of times I just base this on my experience. And unfortunately, these are the things that I train in. And this is just a close-up picture of the pickaxe. And this was one of the items you seized. Correct. And then you can see just some of the why we might have collected it. Because showing some of the stuff, material that could be on the pickaxe.
He dropped in the middle of the lake. Maybe some of the instruments he used to do some of this damage throughout this whole crime spree. This whole little scene.
Let's talk about the dismemberment.
Yeah, so it feels like he's like out on that middle of the lake on that little aluminum boat. And then he's like, has all these tools or something wrapped in a blue tarp. And by tools, I mean the hacksaw, the hatchet, all that crap. Dumps over there. He may have kept his axe. Like he might have had an attachment to one of these tools, so he didn't want to dump it.
Exactly.
So there might be something up on the wall in the hobby shed.
Exact. That right there was an exact detail. If you need to rewind back to Steve Daniels talking about the garage, he talked about a tool that was on the wall still. It had DNA that was left behind of Tylee.
On that crime scene, the fire pit. This is how it was found by law enforcement that day. In her testimony, how they removed the debris, they raked it, they sifted that ground, and they found pieces of Tylee Ryan in that fire pit. They found this chain in that fire pit. They found this charm.
Julie.
It's also located on State's Exhibit 6, being worn by Tylee Ryan.
Tried an axe. Like, it sounds like he was trying a few things. I mean, used a few different things in chopping this body up. Okay, so now they're showing me. Okay, so they showed where they put those parts. Now they're showing me the abdominal part of a body with all the organs coming out. Feels like there's a drain on the floor. That's something important. If you see, obviously you would, if you saw a drain on the floor, we'd look in the drain. Some little piece of jewelry she was wearing may have, or a little sweater pin, or some little piece of something. It looks gold to me. A little angel thing.
Necklace. It was Tylee's
may
necklace.
Have went in the drain.
It's crazy.
With some blood too.
I want to tell you a personal story. The day that testimony came out, the audio would come out in the evening. So I do my best to listen to it. A lot of times I fall asleep. So that's what I've kind of been doing lately, is just catching up on the trial. But I remember one time in particular, I was listening to Nate Eaton from East Idaho News. And it was from the day where it came out in court testimony that a necklace was found. I was not even kidding. I was shell-shocked for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, just sitting, staring at the wall, going, I mean, I already knew her ability was real, okay? But that was so unbelievable to me that even down to the necklace, she got that detail right. The jewelry, she said, it was, I don't know if this was a sweater pin, as it looked like a piece of jewelry. And then to find out that they found a necklace, that was stunning to me. It was crazy. Unbelievable. And there are some details, like that detail, for example, she said it may have fallen off into the drain. It sounds like where it was found was around the fire pit in some area. I believe what they had done, the ERT team had raked a certain area, and then they would sift it. And what presented itself in one of the siftings was, I believe, this piece of jewelry, and it was an actual necklace.
I don't know if it's anxiety or
another detail.
What the anxiety, if the anxiety is about family stuff or social stuff, or other kids tease her about being a little heavy. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I just feel like she's biting her nails.
Doctor, did you review Tylee Ryan's medical records? I did. And in reviewing, what did you find in her medical records in terms of prior illnesses or sicknesses?
So based on the medical records that are available to me, Tylee was documented to have anxiety with panic attacks.
Okay. I've wondered many, many times, how did they do this to Tylee? We already know how it happened to JJ, and I know it's a morbid thing to wonder. But coming from the person who clearly saw their murders, I know you probably wonder too, how did they kill Tylee? Well, I'm going to play for you the best clip I could find where she describes it. It's a disturbing clip, but I think it matters because the experts in the trial were never able to say, how did Tylee die? Why did she die? Who did it? But I feel that this clip clearly explains how it was done and who did it.
Tylee, like, oh, come here. We want you to see the, see this or whatever. And at the exact same time, Lori starts smashing her in the head, and Alex strangles her with a rope, and they are literally doing it at the same time. They push Tylee face. Alex pushes her face down. He's got his knee in her back, and he's just pulling the rope as tight as he can. And Lori is just continuously, literally bashing her head in. And the horribleness of this, even though it's so graphic and gross, is one thing people really need to know. This lady is so dangerous, it's not even funny. And Lori is Lori is the driving force, and I think that's been implied, but Lori is the driving force. So as this whole thing is going on, there's a point where Tylee suffered immensely.
And she did suffer. And why I'm telling you and telling everybody is because when Lori is sentenced, she needs to have the kind of sentence for people who made somebody suffer severely when they died. And it's more than that. It's if you kill somebody where their death it was very took a long time and was if you were going to if she was going to kill her, why didn't she just poison her like sleeping pills? Like, really? Okay. But what they did took several minutes. It wasn't fast. These people, Tylee suffered immensely. So, and I'm saying that so that people understand the gravity and the levity of what they did to Tylee is deserving of life without parole. Tylee got murdered, and I need to see who exactly and what they exactly did. He tried to use a hacksaw. Cut her off at the knees. So gross. He used the little axe things for that. So there's even something that almost looks like a medieval chopper. Not that big, but more the size of a hand axe.
And again, this clip right here that you're listening to is from about a month and a half, 2 months before the kids were found by the FBI.
Say if it was like maybe 6 inches a blade around, but it would be like the shape of these things from the medieval times where you chop stuff. Even something like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. It seems like really weird, but this seems to be upsetting Alex at the moment a little worse than Lori. This part about the dismembering. He's doing it, but he feels a little queasy, and she's like harping for him to get quicker. Like, I don't know if she's the one who did the axe on the knees. Like, get with it. Like, it means nothing to her. And it's not that it means anything to Alex either, the death, but he's grossed out. I don't know if she wants him to disembowel Tylee.
So there's a few things that she said that never were confirmed from the trial. One of those being that the parts of Tylee's body were actually stored in the deep freezer. That was never confirmed. As a matter of fact, this morning, I sent an email to Ronnie Ball, and I said, hey, from 3 years ago, because I had communicated with him about her ability. And I was actually the one, I said, go back into that garage because there's some tools that have Tylee's DNA in there. Anyway, I had sent him an email today, and I told him, I mean, this lady got all these points correct, all these intricate details of this case correct. And one of the things she said was that there was parts of Tylee in that deep freezer, but there was never any mention that you guys found any. But also, the whole body was not found of Tylee because they broke it up into such fragmented pieces that I don't believe all of it was ever found. And Donna explains, and there's a lot of things that I kept out of this because there's literally so much detail. She even describes the home. She describes when the home was built. She talks about the raised porch area in front of the house. I'm talking about detail upon detail upon detail, but I know that the attention span is hard to stay focused, especially on such graphic content. So I wanted to reduce it to just the parts that I knew people wanted to know. We wanted to know, how did this happen to Tylee? But anyway, so there are some details that still have never been confirmed, never been made public. And maybe one day we'll know. But that is among the details. Also, where's the rest of the tools that they used on Tylee? They had to have used a hacksaw. They talked about the hacksaw in the trial, but there was no hacksaw in his garage. And in that clip I played, Donna talks about, it seems like Alex dropped these tools in the middle of some body of water inside of a blue tarp. I would not be surprised if that's what happened. Anyway, I'm going to conclude for now. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. The reason I wanted to present this for you today is because every voice that has impact in this trial or in this case, this Lori Vallow case, refuses to ever talk on such a taboo subject as what I am today. And I felt it's necessary to acknowledge this, that this ability does exist. If it could be used for good in this world, maybe they could find the missing more often, or at least find clues. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Please subscribe if you haven't. Take care, everybody. And I hope you're doing well. Bye.